What's up, fellas? This is an intro. My Buck 110 carry for the month of November went well. Become a fan of it. I've never been a hater, but I've actually become a fan of it. And now I get to carry this strider that Scotch and Things Steve so generously gifted to me. Right, so it's a Buck strider, SBMF, and I couldn't be happy to check this out. I'm gonna carry it for the month. Oh wait, not what the video is about. So you bought $150 Hinderer. I've recorded this video 4 times, and it's taken me a lot of soul searching and thinking and weighing on, like, to be able to come up with a way to properly um, transcript or transcribe or translate what I'm feeling into words without judgment. And so, for those of you not in the know, there's a fella sending messages on Instagram, Facebook, different forms of social media, saying he's got a Buck Strider for $150. I'm sorry, saying he's got a Hinder XM18 for $150. He's also got a Sharp by Design Mini Tempest for $150, something like that. That's a Riot knife, and of course the Hinder is a high-end production knife. Hinders generally drop for 450 ish, and then they gain value on the secondary to about $600 if it's a DLC. Usually about 750, and if it's got black hardware or some other rare hardware, can push over $900 to $1,100, just because of the hardware, which is crazy to me. But let's just assume it was a $450 knife and you were buying it for $150. So there's no doubt in my mind that some of you guys were buying that because you wanted to help somebody out. Being the opportunist that I've always been, I also know that there's probably some folks out there that bought that knife. One second. Probably some opportunistic people out there that are looking for a good deal on a knife they might not otherwise be able to afford. And I have no hate for those individuals that try to take advantage of that situation as well. But to those people, I would say it's a cheap lesson learned. It was $150. Now, I'm going to tell a story, and it's going to sound like some virtue signaling, but I wasn't completely like, I'm going to make it short. I wasn't completely like the good guy, the protagonist in the story either. I was in 2015. There was a layoff in my area, and I got a phone call from a dude that said, "Hey man, I know a guy that has a Black Eagle. It's a double Black Eagle. It's a Benelli 12 gauge shotgun in auto. He wants $300 for it. Back then, that gun sold for like 1,600 new, and I want to say it was about 1,350 if you found one on the secondary market. It's an unbelievable deal. I met up with the fella, and at the time I could afford maybe a Mossberg 500. It was about $350, $400 shotgun. It's not automatic. It's just it's a pump, but that would be my budget. So this gun fell inside my budget, but when I met up with the fella, he was like, "Yeah, I just got laid off. I'm off work. Not sure how I'm gonna pay my bills. Got to feed got a family to feed." The story is very similar to the scammer, that was passing around the the message in order to be able to get $150 for a Hinder off of you guys. So I I called my brother, and I told him, I was like, "Hey, I got you ain't gonna believe this, man. I got an opportunity to buy a double Black Eagle, whatever it's called. It might not be called a double Black Eagle, but something like that, man. It was an expensive Benelli, and I said I'm gonna be able to pick it up for $300." He said, "That's crazy, man. What's going on?" And he was like, "Is it stolen? Make sure it ain't stolen." So we got on Hot Guns and looked up the serial number, and when it was time to hand the money over, I told my, the guy told me all of his story, then I turned around and told my brother, the story, and he was like, "You gotta be ashamed of yourself." So, so I ended up passing the deal off to somebody else. What I wound up doing was like t- telling the guy that I could help him uh, find a buyer that um, that could give him closer to retail. So I'm without a Benelli, but the dude got like $900 for the Benelli, and I'm sure that stretched a lot further. How does this play into the scam? Well, you had to believe that guy was off work. You had to believe that guy was real. You had to believe that guy was, like suffering or struggling to feed his family. That he had children he had to feed. And if you believed all that and you chose to purchase a Hinder for $150 without educating the guy on what he had, he might not have needed any education. Anybody knew exactly what he had. I'm sure he did. I'm just, for the sake of argument, let's just pretend this guy's real for a second. Because you believed he was real. You know what I mean? We know he's not real now, because he's got your money and you don't have a knife. So we know he's not real now, but at one point you believed the knife was real, and at one point you believed the guy was real, and at one point you believed the story was real. So if you, even if you, even if you didn't, if you believed everything that was being sold to you, and you chose to buy the knife for $150 instead of saying, "Hey man, let me get you in touch with some people in the market that can get you closer to value." Um, Instead you decided to buy the knife for yourself um, at a very low price. You didn't do anything wrong, but I would think that possibly knowing how expensive groceries are now, that you might find it a little hard to sleep if you have a conscience. And so it may just be an opportunity to learn. But, in order to stay safe on these sales, regardless of how I feel about the situation and how greed comes into play, deal with people you know. Deal with people that know you or know people. Like yeah, that'll vouch, like Courtney said in the background. Like, so if me and Steve were, Steve and Satu Dave have been friends for a lot longer than uh, me and Scotch and Dave have been friends. I was Scotch and things have been friends. So if I was like, hey, I want this knife that Scotch and things has, then Dave could be like, hey, he's good people, and he could contact Scotch and things and say, we've got, I've got a few dealings with Billy, and he's good people too. And if Dave so choose to mediate that deal, so everybody knows nobody's getting screwed around. That's a way to stay safe. If a deal regurgitated information, I've seen this on a lot of videos, but if you feel like the deal is too good to be true, it is. I mean, it doesn't matter if it is or not. Assume it is, and don't send any money. Sob stories, unfortunately, aren't reliable, and they're going to be the first red flag. That sucks because there's people out there that generally need help, but I feel like the community probably pretty good about vetting those anyway. If somebody's really in a struggle, a lot of times they're not the first person to toot their own horn. Like if we got an emergency situation over here with a content creator, oftentimes we'll hear about that emergency situation from a different content creator. Like, hey man, so and so's in trouble. He's got something going on. We need to do something for him. Whatever, and that's probably going to be the case with anybody that's active in the community. And I'm not, you don't have to put out videos. You could just be a viewer or part of the groups, whatever. So if people know you, they know whether they can trust you or not. So just make sure you know people that you're dealing with. And anything you want to add? Just standing here watching me, making me nervous. like sticking out her tongue and throwing pieces of paper at me across the room. But no, that's how I feel about it, man. I feel like if you not to sound heartless, but I've learned some lessons, and I've had to pay for them. There's always a price to learn some lessons that don't come easy for you. So like if this was a lesson for you, uh, on greed management, then I think you got off pretty cheap, and I would accept it and move on and learn from it. If you were just trying to be a kind person, you didn't care about the knife. You were just trying to do something kind for somebody. I'm sorry it happened to you. It sucks. If you one of those people that I heard some of the people gave them buybacks, be like hey man, that's too cheap. Let me send you some money. You can send me the knives. I'll play with them for a little while, and whenever you get your get right financially, you can buy them back from me for the same price. Not talking to you. Like all those are fair. All those those are fair, but and it sucks that you got taken advantage of. But if you were one of those people like me and the Benelli, then I was kind of ashamed of myself, and I guess maybe possibly you might should be ashamed of yourself too, just because you believe the story was true. Anyway, that's all I got on it. I'm gonna go. You want to say bye to him, Courtney?
Bye, y'all.
All right. Or you got anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. Well, you guys have a great one. We'll catch you on the flip side.